everyone, welcome back to Hannah Worldwide and Friends, the podcast about living abroad. If you live abroad, or you love to travel, or you are interested in different countries and cultures, this podcast is for you. Also, if you always wanted to live abroad, but you haven't found the courage yet, this podcast might inspire you. Just follow me on Instagram or hit the bell button in Spotify to get updated on new episodes. Listen to Hannah Worldwide and Friends on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Hi everyone, please welcome with me Neena Nandigam. Neena was born in Oman, a country in the Middle East, and lived there with her family until she was 8 years old. Her parents are originally from India and made the decision to move to Oman to then make another big move to New Zealand. Neena is living in New Zealand ever since. Welcome, Neena.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Thank you. It's great that you could make some time and that you're willing to share your story of growing up in the Middle East with us.
I'm excited to share it.
All right, let's dive right in. Do you know why your parents decided to leave India and then move to Oman in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So my dad actually moved to Oman before he ever got married to my mum. So he got offered a job as a English teacher in a high school / university.
That's cool.
In Oman. So he went there before he got married, and he worked there for a little bit. And then he came back, he married my mum, and then they both went back to the Middle East. And that's where they had me, I suppose. But yeah, as to the reason why they moved from India to Oman, I guess it was the pay was better. Oman, living in Oman, working in Oman has a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay taxes.
Right.
There's no taxes. And because, Oman is in the Middle East and the major export is oil, you get the best of everything from every country.
Yeah.
So you get the best, Swiss ice cream, you get the best clothes from major retailers, etc. Oman is, one of the capitals of gold, like most Middle Eastern countries. So it's quite a wonderful country to live in.
Yeah.
And my parents were getting paid very well. In fact, the government would pay for their flight tickets to India every year.
So to visit family. So it was a really good time for them. Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so living in Oman was almost like a no-brainer. You want to live there. It's better than India, to be honest. Any country is better than India in some ways. So yeah, that's why they moved to Oman.
Yeah. I mean, now since you say it this way, I want to move to Oman. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah, nobody really thinks about... To be honest, whenever I say, I come from Oman, the first question anyone asks me is, what's Oman?
Yeah.
Like, where is it?
Yeah.
Because it's such a inconspicuous country. Like, nobody really thinks about it, Nobody thinks about,
true.
like... Everyone thinks about Italy or France or
Dubai.
Or Dubai, like... but nobody really thinks about Oman.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have to admit, I don't know much about Oman.
Yeah.
And when I looked at some pictures, it looked beautiful. So can you tell us a little bit more about how it was for you to grow up in Oman and how you kind of sensed it, how your perspective is about the country?
Yeah. So, I grew up in Oman. I lived there for 8 years before I moved to New Zealand. So my childhood is Oman.
Yeah.
Even though I visited India, every year. And I would see my cousins, and most of my, apart from my immediate family, all my first cousins, all my aunts and uncles, they're all in India.
Yeah.
But Oman was where I grew up. It's where I went to school. It was my childhood, and I loved it there. It's how do I even describe it? It's an unforgettable place.
Yeah.
It's like nothing you probably have ever seen.
Yeah.
You look at New Zealand and it's so lush and green and the scenery is amazing. Just imagine New Zealand, but without the green. Everything is brown.
Yeah.
Everything is brown, but it's almost like a rugged kind of beauty.
Yeah.
There's like cliffs on each side. There's like camels, just wandering around.
Wow.
The roads are just straight. And it's beautiful in its own like unique way.
Yeah.
And then you see just the flat desert on either side, and it's like I can't compare it to anything.
Yeah, honestly, when you describe it this way, it really reminds me on these nice cartoon movies from Aladdin.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, the sand dunes
are
magnificent. It's amazing. And then when you go to the beaches, it's just absolutely gorgeous because it's like blue sea, and you're surrounded by rocky cliffs.
Yeah.
And it's just brown everywhere. So kind of like maybe the closest kind of beaches that I've seen that kind of resemble Oman would probably be maybe Sicily and Italy.
Yeah.
Where they have like rocky formations and it's just rock and brown.
Yeah.
Kind of, except without those towns on the cliffside, the colourful towns. That's what Oman's like.
Yeah.
It's very unique. It's a huge like memorable part of my childhood, and I guess my parents were young back then, and we had quite a few friends in Oman, so we would go on trips where we would drive through the night to go to different places.
Wow.
So we used to travel quite a bit within Oman, and a memory that's forever etched in my mind is we went to a beach called Turtle Beach in Oman, and I think you had to drive for about a day.
Wow.
So we used to drive through the night sometimes, and what happens is we reached this beach in the middle of the night. It was pitch black, right? And we're in the middle of the desert. We didn't have any motels to stay in or anything. We slept in our cars. So this is about like maybe 2 or 3 families, including ours. We were in the middle of the desert, obviously very close to the beach. We couldn't go to the beach as yet, so we slept in our cars, and then you could hear there's like desert wolves. They're not like wolves, but they're like, I think, coyotes maybe. I don't really know what they're called in Oman. But you could hear them howling in the night as well. And then just before sunrise, or maybe a couple of hours before sunrise, it's still pretty dark. This Omani man came, and then he woke us up. And he took us to the beach. So the beach is a protected area because that's where turtles come. They lay their eggs there. And they wanted to protect it. It's like a sanctuary. And so he took us to the beach. You could hear the water, and you could see the sun as it's just about to rise. And then he flashed his torch on the sand, and you could see the baby turtles coming up from underneath the sand. And I was pretty young then. Me and my friends, we were all young, we were about the same age. We took the turtles and we helped them, we threw them into the sea.
Oh, wow.
Before any of the wildlife around could eat them, because there's snakes around, there's like other things around as well. Because the turtles lay their eggs quite far back from the sea, so they still need to, crawl, so we would hold them and put them into the sea.
I always wanted to do that. I always dream of like going to a sanctuary and actually helping the little baby turtles into the ocean. And that sounds so magnificent, like amazing. I'm really visual, so I can totally picture everything you say. I'm having this amazing desert in my mind, and then how you guys were in the car waiting, the coyotes howling, and then going to the beach, and oh my god, that sounds like a dream, really.
It's a really cool memory, and I'm really glad that I got to experience something like that.
And what do you think that's your best memory of your childhood, or is it just one of the memories you had from your childhood which just stays so much in your brain?
It's one of the memories that I have. I think some of the other best memories is just playing football with the other Omani kids after school. It was life was just bliss. You know, when you think about childhood, you think about all the good stuff. You know what I mean? And then, you know, you think about, how do I put it? Like, you almost romanticize your childhood in a way. Because, you know, right now, if you talk to anyone, I mean, there are people out there who, you know, their childhood wasn't the greatest. But, like,
and
your childhood is always, like, everyone always wishes to go back to being a child, right? Why? Because, like, you're always happy then.
And it's always like this magic when you're a child. You can see
everything is wonderful. Every like little thing is wonderful. So Oman for me was like childhood. It was like utopia. And it used to be such a wonderful time.
And have you been visiting Oman ever since you moved to New Zealand?
I have not visited Oman ever since I've come to New Zealand, but I'd love to go back.
I really am so curious because now, as you said, like it's such a childhood memory and it's like all bliss and it's amazing. I really wonder now, since you're an adult, how you feel about it. If it's kind of a confirmation of your memory, or if you're all of a sudden like, wow, okay, now I see things so different and I think it's very the opposite of certain memories you had, or if you're really like, it's still amazing, beautiful, I wish I could show everyone around me.
I've thought about that so many times, and I've got an aunt who actually lives with her family in Oman, so I'm definitely thinking about going back and visiting. And just reliving all of that. I want to go back to my old house. Because it's still there. It's still there. And I want to visit all those places and see if my memory still holds up. I mean, you know, there's always going to be change. Things are going to be a little bit different, the orientation, etc. There might be new buildings everywhere, etc. But I'm hoping, you know, I will be able to still see like glimpses of childhood. Here and there.
Please let me know how you felt when you actually go, because
I'll come back. I'll come back and I'll tell you.
That's so interesting. Do you remember, because you said you were playing football with the other Omani kids and you were just like living your best life? How did you feel? Like, are there many Indian families as well? And did you feel like you had a community there? And did you always feel like you were fitting in, or did you feel different at any point?
Omanis are the most friendly people you will ever meet. And no, I never felt like I was an outsider. You never really felt like you were an outsider. But then maybe it's because I was a child and I didn't really comprehend that we were different. You know what I mean? Because Oman's quite a hot country. And you know, like there is obviously a difference between, like, you know, how you look versus how an Omani looks, but Omanis are normally quite tanned people. So like they are like very brown. So skin color wise, like, you know, there was no kind of difference, like even with the girls and the guys, you know. So I never felt like I was an outsider. We used to all play together. The school that I actually went to in Oman was an Indian school.
Yeah.
So there was quite a huge like Indian community in Oman. So like most of my friends were Indian, but there were, you know, other cultures around, like Omanis, there were Pakistanis, there were people from Bahrain, there were people from Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia. Oman is one of the most peaceful Islamic countries.
Yeah.
And that is all because of the Sultan, who I think died quite recently. His name is Sultan Qaboos.
Mm-hmm.
He was an amazing man, an amazing ruler of the country.
Yeah.
He really developed that country very, very well, and it's a very peaceful country.
Yeah.
But mind you, like, as outsiders, we still didn't have rights. So we couldn't get citizenship, or we weren't allowed to buy a house.
Yeah.
In fact, when we're renting, we need like a letter of reference.
Yeah.
And the landlord, the government always asks the landlord, you know, are they behaving themselves? Are you happy with these guys? You know, that kind of thing. So there is, on one hand, there is quite a lot of restriction. You don't have as much freedom or as many rights.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, you know, those kind of cons, the benefits outweigh the cons.
Yeah.
In a way.
I found it quite interesting that kind of the government takes the effort to check in with landlords and stuff, asking, hey, are they behaving? Is everything going all right?
All right, yeah. Definitely. But they are still very respectful.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, we are helping their education system. Because my parents were English teachers, right?
Yeah.
So if they're teaching future Omanis how to speak English, these Omanis can go to, universities in other countries, learn, come back, make the country better.
Yeah.
That was the vision.
Yeah.
So Sultan Qaboos would select a couple of Omanis and he would pay for their university. So they could go to Germany, they could go to Europe, they could go to the top universities, they study there, and then they come back and then add value to the country, make it better.
Yeah.
Because university wasn't the most developed in Oman, which is, again, you know, why we had to move to New Zealand, why my parents decided to move to New Zealand. It's because, you know, further study wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you touch a little bit more on the situation of when your parents decided to move to New Zealand?
Yeah, so I was 8 years old at the time. And so that would equate to primary school in New Zealand. So that's about year 4 or year 5.
Yeah.
And my parents were already thinking ahead. My dad very much like thinks ahead. So he, you know, there were two options. One option was, you know, my dad stays back in Oman and he earns and he supports the family that way. And then meanwhile, I'd have to go back to India with my mum and pursue further education that way.
Yeah.
Or, so the family would be split in option 1. Option 2, we go to a completely different country.
Yeah.
And somehow my parents got to know about New Zealand.
Yeah.
We visited. We saw the place. We really liked it.
Yeah.
And then they just applied for PR, permanent residency, and they forgot about it.
Oh, okay.
Then,
so straight away, not even like applying for...
No.
Because PR is pretty much up.
Yeah. So they just applied for PR, and back in, it was 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
So immigration wasn't as, you know, as bad as what it is now. For immigrants especially. So they just got it. They got PR, I think within, a couple of months or something. And that was just like confirmation for them.
Wow,
and they're like, okay, let's
amazing.
move. So my parents did the hard work for me.
Yeah.
They made the brave step of coming to a new country, not knowing anyone.
Yeah.
Without much money. So, yeah, they decided to take the brave step of... coming to a place and having to start all over again.
Yeah.
Just for their children, for me.
Yeah.
So that is why I'm in New Zealand at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great story.
Yeah.
And especially the fact that they are thinking for one little human, their daughter.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they must have loved the country Oman as well, right?
Yeah, and like, I mean, they love Oman, but they were never really, like, it wasn't an option to live there for years.
Yeah, okay.
If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, even my aunt who lives there right now, she's got 2 teenage boys.
Yeah.
And they're now thinking about what next, because, you know, once you have kids,
yeah,
you're supporting your family. Your kids, you support your kids to do better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I guess they were sort of like thinking ahead.
Yeah. And now you're here, you studied, and you have a sister now as well.
Yeah, so my sister was like the surprise when we came to New Zealand. Because we're 10 years apart.
Yeah.
My mum and dad didn't think they could have any more children. So my sister was a very happy surprise.
That's
for them.
awesome.
So she is like, she doesn't know anything about Oman. It's almost like she was born in a different era of our lives.
Yeah, like almost a different world.
It's
right?
a different world. She will never know Oman. She will never understand how much Oman means to us as a family.
Yeah.
She was born in the New Zealand era.
Yeah. So she's the New Zealand baby.
She's the New Zealand baby. She's Gen Z.
Yeah. How does it make you feel, like the relationship to your sister, not just that you are 10 years apart, which already is a difference,
Yeah.
but also growing up very differently, like in a very different surrounding? Would you say it had a major impact on the relationship to your sister as well?
I think so. For me, coming to New Zealand was like, it was like puberty. You feel weird, you look weird.
Yeah.
There's a rash on your face, nothing looks right on you, you know, your body's out of proportion. And you're just like, suddenly you're thrust from this like, la 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 la, fairy tale into a dystopian horror movie. You know what I mean?
Everything is different.
Everything is different.
You are in an age where it means a lot to look like the others or to feel like you belong.
Yeah, it was almost like I was dreaming and then I woke up.
Yeah.
And then reality started to hit. Because when I came to New Zealand, life was tough. My parents, you know, they had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
So they were busy trying to make the family financially, you know, stable.
Yeah.
Which meant, you know, I felt very alone at school.
Yeah.
Because I never fit in. I didn't really understand. During my first year at primary school in New Zealand, I think I was maybe year 4 or 5, I never did my homework because I never understood how to do it.
Yeah. Oh,
and
God.
the teacher was never very happy with me.
Yeah.
And I had an accent and I never really fit in.
Yeah.
In Oman, everyone was really friendly and you were accepted almost immediately.
Yeah.
Here in New Zealand, I started to see things were very different. I wasn't very easily accepted into friend groups. In fact, it was a challenge for me. Even all the way up till, I would say, high school and university. It was always a challenge for me to get accepted.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting growing up in a country or in countries where you're not a national, you're ethnically, you're ethnically different.
Yeah.
It's almost like you just never belong.
Hmm.
And it's really funny. I went back to India, I think it was in either 2014 or 2015, from New Zealand. It was the first time I'd gone back as like a teenager, like as a grown-up.
Yeah. And
it had been a long time since I'd grown up. And I was looking at all my cousins and I'm like, I am where I'm supposed to belong, but I don't fit in here either.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I felt so disorientated because I didn't really fit in New Zealand, and now I don't fit in India either.
Yeah.
And you're just like, where do I belong? Like, where do I fit in? Like, who am I? Like, what am I?
Yeah.
I like, ethnically, by blood, I'm Indian, but my accent is different. The way I think is different. The way I respond to things is different. I don't watch the same movies as people in India do. Sometimes I don't even know what the heck they're talking about. And then in New Zealand, you're just like, again, you're very different.
Yeah.
Because, again, you look different.
Yeah.
Your skin color is different. You know, this is different. That is different.
Yeah.
And it's very... I would say coming to New Zealand was like very... It was like waking up. It was like being hit with reality.
Yeah,
and
from
like
your
the
childhood.
struggles of life. If Oman was utopia, New Zealand was dystopia.
Oh, wow.
I'm not even joking. It took a while for me to really adjust. And even to this day, like, I still struggle with belonging in some sense. Like, home for me is almost like I don't know where home is.
Yeah.
In a way.
I can totally understand. And I think Nick told me once that we are called the in-between because you don't quite know where you fit in and you are not really feeling like this is your home or this is your home.
Yeah.
And people there feel like you don't really know what's going on there anymore.
No, yeah.
And I actually was wondering at one point if I do an episode only about people who feel like that because it's such a common thing and it's 100%. Such a big topic.
Yeah.
So there are heaps of people who feel that way. And I just recently listened to a podcast episode from Jay Shetty. Mm-hmm. I love his work. I love his podcast. And he always has really interesting interviews as well with people who are great and interesting. And I think he had Becky G, who is, I think, actress, singer, songwriter. And if I'm not wrong, she has Mexican heritage and grew up in America. So she also talked about it, but she gave it a really nice roundup by saying, I'm not 50-50, I'm like 200. Or I'm 100 plus. Like, she adds it up together and says, I'm both and I have all of it rather than I'm half this and I'm not really fully this and I'm also not fully that. So she's trying to put like a positive spin on it because people always feel so negative about themselves of not belonging, which is true. It's a real feeling. And I think I still identify German. Like, for me, Germany is home because I have been living there for 27 years and I live in New Zealand for 5 years. But I know that sometimes I don't quite know how I feel, what to feel. And then talking to a lot of people, they feel the same way and they have the same feelings you have. So that's such a big common feeling for people from overseas. So totally fair. Do you think your sister felt the same way growing up?
Oh, absolutely not. She grew up here. She's living her best life.
So she's like a Kiwi.
Yeah, she is very much a Kiwi. Because she doesn't know anything else. You know what I mean? So she's grown up here. She's had friends here. She is going back to India this year. But I think for her, it's actually interesting. You know what? I never really asked her that question. So when she comes back from India, I think I will ask her that question. How do you feel? Like, do you feel like you're Indian, or, you know, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about going back to your, you know, place where your ancestors come from, or your mum and your dad actually come from? And then, you know, do you feel like you belong there? Do you not? I feel like she's at an age where, like, she doesn't think too deeply right now. She's very much a teenager. So for her, everything is very superficial. Superficial in the sense it's all about friends. It's all about, you know, fitting in, all of that kind of stuff. I don't think she very much thinks too deeply about things.
Yeah.
I mean, she sometimes like tells me, you think way too deeply. Like, you think way too deeply. Or maybe, and I think that's just who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I think quite deeply about quite a few things, so there's quite a little bit of disconnect there. But then I think that's an age gap thing, and different people are different. So,
and that's where we come back to like how you guys are, like the relationship between you two sisters growing up very differently, having an age gap, and also just being different people, really. Even if you would have grown up in the same place 1 year apart, could be still quite different. But
definitely, it would definitely be very different. Sometimes I just feel like her third parent, because there are things she doesn't tell my mum or my dad, but she'll tell me. And then I don't know, I have to choose, do I be a parent, or do I be the cool older sister and be like, go do it.
Enjoy your life, you're just young once.
I think I'm more of trying to be more of a cooler older sister and let her learn by herself, as opposed to like, don't do that, don't do this, all of that. But anyway.
I think she will be really grateful for that.
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know. We'll see.
We ask her in like 10 years.
10 years time. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Coming back to Oman, what I was wondering is, there are so many misconceptions around the Middle East, and we will hear a lot of things which are true, but we will also hear some things where no one really knows because no one really went there. So do you know any misconceptions you heard about the Middle East or Oman or countries around there, which you think they are absolutely not true, or like therefore misconceptions? Like,
that's a really interesting question. I mean, I think when people think about the Middle East, they think about terrorism. They think about, Iran, Iraq. They think about quite the extremist type, extremism in terms of religion. And terrorism, I would say. But Oman really isn't like that. It's one of the most safest places. There'll be kids running around on the street. My parents had no problem with me, staying out till dark, just kicking a ball around with the other kids. It was quite a safe environment. And maybe it's also because it was quite far back. We are talking about, 2000s. We're talking about 1990. I was born in 96, so around early 2000s. Just before the 2000s, really. So it was quite safe. And it is an Islamic country, but everyone is just so friendly. I come from a Christian family. My grandparents on both sides were very strong Christians. Both my parents are strong Christians. And we, coming back to, having rights in Oman, you aren't allowed to have like a church building. There are only mosques around. You can't have a church building. But there was no problem. Like, we used to meet in people's homes. There was one home that we used to meet in, and we just used to have church there. And there was no persecution. You were very much allowed to practice your belief. We had many Hindu friends. They used to have their little, shrines in their homes. There was nothing wrong with that. Again, you can't have a temple, like a property that has a temple on it. So it was very safe to practice your religion, or to, go about how you want to go about. And again, all the credit goes to Sultan Qaboos, who made it very safe for everyone. To practice their religion and be who they need to be. In fact, it's funny, like the morning, at 6 a.m. in the morning, the mosques, they would say their prayer out loud in the speaker and everyone can hear. That brings me nostalgia. It's like I'm home kind of feeling. even though it's to, Allah.
Yeah.
Just that morning prayer, it was like it filled it was like childhood pretty much.
Yeah.
And actually, my mum's town back in India, Hyderabad, in the south of India, was actually used to be governed by Muslims as well.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few mosques around. So it's like going back to India, you hear the Muslim prayer in the morning.
Yeah.
And even in Oman, you hear the Muslim prayer in the morning. We had Muslim friends. They were all lovely people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say I would encourage everyone to visit.
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone to visit.
I want to.
Yeah.
Especially now. Learning more about it.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go and visit. While before that, I didn't even really think about the country, as you said. People forget that it exists, right?
Yeah,
so,
definitely. Like, I reckon add it to your bucket list.
Yeah, I have too many countries on the list.
It's so different. And let me know what you think.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Do you think you have any kind of like habits you developed as a child over there, which you kind of still carry over here, like this is still what you do every day or every now and then, like something you feel like this is like your last bits from your childhood?
It's a really good question. I don't really have any habits per se, but living in different countries has really given me an interest in learning about different cultures.
Yeah.
Different languages. So when I was living in Oman, I used to know how to speak a little bit of Arabic. I used to be able to hold a conversation because all the kids used to speak Arabic. And, if you want to play a game together, you need to be able to communicate. So I used to pick up little phrases, which I've completely lost now, but
yeah.
That's where my interest for other cultures developed, and I'm always very keen to learn new languages and learn about different cultures and eat different cuisines.
Yeah.
It's because I was so exposed to at an early age. I'm always very curious as to how other cultures do things.
Yeah.
Which is also why I would love to travel. I haven't traveled much at all.
Yeah.
But I would love to travel to different countries. And I think, because as immigrants in Oman, we were respected, we learnt how to respect other cultures.
Yeah.
As well. So I have a huge respect for other cultures. And I really liked that quote that you put up recently from, was it Thor?
Yeah.
Who said, when you go to a different country, be on your best behavior.
Yeah.
And that's so true. That's so very true. Because, you're in someone else's land.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's kind of what it feels like here as well. This is not, in a way it is home.
Yeah.
New Zealand is home, in a way, but, you be on your best behavior.
Yeah.
Be on your best behavior. So I wouldn't say there were any habits or anything that I learned from Oman, but it's made me very curious about the world.
Yeah.
And exploring and adventure, and trying new things. It's definitely made me who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So I would say I feel like I haven't fit in most of my life, but that's in a way good because it means that I'm used to change, I suppose.
You're really adaptable in a way.
Yeah, flexible, adaptable. So in a way that's good.
Yeah.
But in a way it's also kind of, I would say, sad because then you don't really fit in as well.
Yeah.
Anywhere as well.
Would you think you always still chase fitting in? That's kind of a goal for you?
I think everyone does.
Yeah.
To some degree. I think for different people, it will be different areas where they're trying to fit in or trying to find a place where they belong.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hear this all the time. I'm sure everyone's heard this, but the only thing in life that's constant is change.
Yeah.
Things are always changing. I mean, that's the point of life, I think. You have seasons.
Yeah.
You know, you can't hold on to one season.
Exactly.
You can't hold on to one season. It's literally built into how the world was built.
Yeah.
It's always changing.
Yeah.
So I think having a getting used to change is good. Good.
I think the more we are exposed to changes as well from a young age, the easier it might get as well, because it's so easy to be stuck in your comfort zone. And I have done that for many years, and just when it slowly started growing, my sense of adventure and my feeling of I need to go out in the world, then I was like, okay, I might dare to step out of my comfort zone. But people are meant to, or built to, just stick together and stay in their comfort zone and just be happy, live their lives, and that's it. But the reward really just comes when you step out of that comfort zone, and there is change. And change is scary.
It is scary.
Like, super scary. And it's not always easy. It's not always great.
No.
Like, change doesn't always mean something positive is coming along. But change means something new is building, and it always has the opportunity to be positive and great. It's just
definitely.
It's growing into something, and it's up to us if this something is something great or not. So
change always helps you grow. Like, without change, you're never gonna grow. And I think, I don't know who said it, but they said, we didn't work this hard to stay the same. You're not supposed to stay the same. You are supposed to grow, and hopefully grow for the better, because you can grow for the worse. Let's be honest. But you're always evolving. You're always growing. You have to be growing. You have to be growing. I mean, you don't want to stay a baby your entire life, right?
Definitely
that would be a burden
not
on your parents. You want to grow up. You want to grow up, and you want to, choose to be the best person that you can be.
Well said. Very wise words. Thank you. I'm always finishing or ending the episode with the final quick 3 questions.
Yeah, sure.
And most questions are pretty similar for every guest, but sometimes I just
change it up
a little bit.
Okay.
But
okay, hit me.
It's 1 word, 1 sentence.
Okay.
So let's see.
Okay.
Question number 1. Which country would you want to see the most once you start traveling around?
Oh, Italy.
Italy.
I would.
That's your country?
Italy. I have a dream of sitting by the waterfront, eating pasta and sipping a limoncello.
Oh, yum.
That is my dream. One day.
I love that idea. I can picture you sitting there.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to make that happen.
Makes me want to go, and honestly I am waiting for the longest time to do like a proper round trip in Italy.
Oh yeah.
Because I love it, and I only went once when I was 15.
Okay.
And I just went to Rome.
Okay.
And I never made it back yet, which is stupid because I was so close, and yet now I'm so far.
Yeah, you are all the way on the other side of the world now.
Exactly, but I totally feel you. I want to see more places in Italy as well.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Question number 2.
Yeah.
What do you miss the most about Oman?
Oh, very good question. What do I miss most about the Oman? Community. Yeah. I felt like we had a really good community back in Oman.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool time. It was such a wonderful time. It was just filled with adventure. School wasn't a chore.
Yeah.
There was always something happening. It really felt like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you really still hold on to that feeling.
I don't hold on to the feeling. I love the memories.
Yeah.
I love the memories, and I just want to experience the place again, because I know when I go back to Oman, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Because that was in a different space. It was in a different time with different people. You know, those people have gone now.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to go back to where it all started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to hear your stories afterwards. So.
Oh, definitely. And
please.
Yeah, I'll probably go to Oman and then go to Italy straight from there.
Yeah. And then we can have another episode and like have part 2.
Yeah.
And listen to how it actually was when you went back, how the memories were, if it's like still some similarities from before. Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm curious too. All
right, last question. What do you love the most about New Zealand?
Nothing. What do I love most about New Zealand? You know, coming from Oman to New Zealand, it was almost like opposites in a way, because Oman is so dry and desert-like, and New Zealand is just so lush and green. It's almost like opposites, you know. What I mean. And it, you know, in Oman you've got like dry heat. New Zealand is like humid. It's very humid, and it's almost like when, you know, in Oman you used to get those little like postcards of like lush green hills. And you're just like, wow, I wonder what that would look like. And then suddenly you're in New Zealand and that's what you see every day. You know, when you like just go out a little bit out of Hamilton, you know, you see lush green fields. And it's almost, it's so different. I would say I love the scenery in New Zealand. It's so picturesque. It's almost like, and looking at those postcards in Oman, it was almost like, oh, I wonder if I'll ever get to experience this. You know what I mean? And then suddenly being here, you're like, oh, wow, I saw this on a postcard. Like, especially when I went to Milford Sound and I went to Queenstown, it was so surreal. It felt like I was in Switzerland or in Europe or somewhere, you know, just those hills and like the snow. I never thought I'd see snow in my life. I always wanted to see snow, and this is where I saw snow.
Perfect. So it's kind of, New Zealand is the dream of what's on a postcard in a way.
Absolutely. It's like picture perfect, you know? Postcard. It's like you're living in a postcard, really. It's beautiful. It really is.
It's so interesting for me to see. You know, most people would say, oh, I love New Zealand. It's so safe. It's so peaceful. And just the people are so nice. And it's quite the opposite of how you feel with New Zealand, because you come from a different place where you had all you needed in your mind when you were a child. And it was peaceful, it was safe, it was a happy place. And then coming to another place where it's like harder.
It's hard.
New. You need to fit in. You need to work your way up again. It's really good to hear a different version of it, because not everyone will love New Zealand for what it is, or will only experience the positives of the country. People will will experience something which will be hurtful or will be difficult and challenging, and it's good to have this perspective as well. So thank you so much for this.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to be on the pod with you.
Yeah,
the travel pod.
Thanks so much. I love having more and more countries where we can have other people learn something about a new country which they never knew about, or just be curious about the world and new cultures, and just curious to get to know new people from a very different country. So yeah, thank you so much for giving us a little more insight to Oman and the life in the Middle East.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And to everyone listening, visit Oman. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So you listen to it, please. A new recommendation for your bucket list, if you have countries on your list, at Oman. And I hope that wherever you are, if you are listening, while you're walking your dog, while you're cooking, while you're chilling, while you're having a nap, well, not really while you're having a nap, while you are really relaxed on the bed.
You're putting people to sleep.
I hope you found it interesting and you get a sense of adventure. So thank you, everyone, and I hope I hear you next time. Thank you so much for listening, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.